welcome to Diecast Restos. My name is Jason, and this is a build with a bit of Brazilian flair.
Brasil!
Yes, it may be a Volkswagen, but the SP2 was built by their Brazilian subsidiary, Volkswagen do Brasil, between 1972 and 1975. This Hot Wheels model appeared in an eBay job lot I picked up a while back, and at the time, I didn't know much about the SP2. So this video is a journey of discovery for me, and I always like something new. I'll be customizing this one to look just like the car as it did when it rolled off its South American production line. These Porsche 904 wheels will be assisting me in achieving that. I think a little bit of perspective is needed, so let's jump back to 1952, 20 years before the SP2 arrived. Beginning that year, the Brazilian government started to enact a series of laws that made it more and more difficult for manufacturers to import cars. This was an attempt to boost the indigenous automotive industry. Volkswagen do Brasil was set up in 1953 to circumvent these rules, constructing knockdown kits of the Type 1 Beetle, known as Fuscas, and the Kombi Type 2 van, both by hand. Volkswagen were then forced to open their own factory and assembly line, with Kombi production commencing in 1957 and Fusca 1200 production following in 1959. Most domestic manufacturers were divisions of larger multinational firms, producing dependable family vehicles and vans. They usually offered little in the way of sports cars. This left local independent manufacturers to fill the gap. Puma produced the Puma GT, powered by a 3-cylinder 2-stroke DKW engine, which was later redesigned to use Volkswagen parts after DKW's withdrawal from the market. Puma would go on to become Brazil's most well-known sports car manufacturer, producing over 22,000 cars. Other efforts from Brasinca, FNM and the Adamo were all produced in very low volumes. During the 60s, the sportiest offering from Volkswagen do Brasil was the aging Carmen Ghia. So in 1970, in order to spice up their offerings, Volkswagen do Brasil launched Project X, led by Rudolf Leiding. Leiding would produce some of the earliest sketches of the car himself and, wanting to appeal to female buyers, sought the input of his wife Helga. The resulting design was the first Volkswagen to have the shark face nose style that would later appear on the German 412 and the Brazilian Brasilia. Production of the SP2 began in 1972. The origins of its name are unclear, with SP perhaps standing for Sao Paulo, where it was made, or Sports Prototype. It was built on a Brazilian market Type 3 variant chassis. Powered by a pancake, it produced 65 horsepower. Well, that or a suitcase, both of which were names given to the 1.7 litre air-cooled Volkswagen Boxer 4. It has a cooling fan attached to the end of the crankshaft, thus reducing the engine height. It could reach a top speed of 100 miles per hour and took 17.4 seconds to reach 62. Sporty. It has a 4-speed manual transaxle powering the rear wheels, with the engine also located at the rear. It therefore offered plenty of luggage space, above the engine and under the rear hatch providing 205 litres, and there was a further 140 litres in the frunk. Externally, there is a black rubber collision belt that runs around the entirety of the car. Inside, it had 3-point seat belts, becoming the first Brazilian car to receive this safety feature. When it went on sale, it cost almost the same amount as 2 Beetles, and despite being praised for its looks, initial sales were slow. Speaking of slow, it was criticised for its performance, or lack of, with some suggesting SP stood for sem potência, Portuguese for without power. In comparison to its main rival, the Puma, it lagged behind due to its steel body construction, which was heavier than the Puma's fiberglass shell. Both cars used a similar engine. Alongside the SP2 was also the SP1, which was an even less powerful and more sparsely equipped alternative. This had a 1.6 litre Boxer 4 engine fitted that had a top speed of 93 miles per hour. It was discontinued in 1974 after just 88 units were produced. Volkswagen do Brasil planned to export the SP2 to the US, but this fell through due to the headlamps being too low to meet US standards. The car was the lowest built in Brazil to that date. A total of 10,205 cars would be built, with 681 of these exported. 155 found their way to Nigeria. SP2s are now well sought after and hold their value far higher than other VWs of a similar age. The car's legacy would indirectly lead to the creation of a Porsche sports car. Rudolf Leiding, who originally conceived the SP2, became boss of Volkswagen in 1971. He was the force behind the Volkswagen sports car project, which was internally dubbed EA425, working alongside Porsche. The design team certainly took visual inspiration from the SP2. Porsche would later go on to release Project EA425 as their own car, but that's another story that I've told before, which you can watch here. There were two design studies on possible successors to the SP2. One prototype kept the same chassis and mechanical layout as the SP2, but replaced the air-cooled engine with a rear-mounted, water-cooled Passat TS 1.6 litre unit. This produced 85 horsepower. Testing of this car, dubbed the SP3, went so far that VW planned to unveil it in November 1976, but the project was then cancelled. Another concept would follow, built on their front-wheel drive unibody platform with a water-cooled engine. This stayed true to the SP2's body style and would have been a South American equivalent to the Scirocco. However, this was scrapped following poor Scirocco sales in Europe. The SP2 would have no direct successor after production ceased in December 1975. As for this Hot Wheels model, it arrived on the scene in 2010 in a series of brightly coloured body shades similar to the variety seen on the real car. The very first issue was orange with authentic striped decals to the sides. It also had a chrome door handle tampo and black tampos to its rubber belt. Despite having lots of variations, releases of the SP2 were sporadic. The initial model was followed up with a red Easter egg exclusive issue in 2012, and a white, more conventional looking SP2 would appear in multi-packs. It was next seen in a racing livery on a white body in the Retro Style series of 2016. There was a premium overhaul in 2017 when it formed part of the air-cooled Car Culture series. A vibrant yellow body was featured with green tampos and real rider wheels. My casting with its red body and black, white and blue tampos followed in 2019, along with a pale yellow release. This carried the same tampos as the red car did, just replacing the white and blue for dark yellow and orange. It returned in 2022, painted in a dark forest green for the Volkswagen series, and then in a Spectra Flame apple green in 2023 as part of the Ultra Hots line. Its latest release formed part of this year's Neon Speeders batch in a metal flake navy blue and is shrouded in decals. I didn't note any nice pale blues in the Hot Wheels line like the car from the very start of this video. That was my muse for this build. Now it's time to piece it all back together. I always prefer an untinted transparency, but the blue on blue here is passable, I think. I didn't need to do too much to the interior or base, just a touch of trim to the black moulded plastic parts. All that is needed is a pair of 3mm M2 laptop screws to see off this project. Here is how the Hot Wheels Volkswagen SP2 was looking before I got to work customising it. I didn't know anything about the SP2 before starting this build, so I used it as an opportunity to brush up on my Brazilian automotive knowledge. I now know how rare they are, so if I ever see one, I will definitely take the time to appreciate its understated beauty. The engine, not so much. Anyway, let's take a look at my transformation of it. I think the Porsche 904 steels look spot on and they are perfectly sized for this Hot Wheels. I felt the pale blue would offset the blue tint of the windows, and from most angles, against that black interior, you can hardly tell. The trim came out well, but the decals ran ever so slightly during clear coating, so the lines from this kind of distance look to have merged a bit. But what do you think about it? Have you learned something today, or have I missed out on an interesting bit of the SP2's history? Let me know by leaving a comment. If you aren't yet, please do me a big favour and click that subscribe button to really help the channel grow. The bigger it gets, the better the builds. Oh, and if you like what you see, leave a like too. But that's all for today. All that leaves me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.